Well, good evening, and good evening, everyone. I'm Alvin King, and welcome to a new episode of He Said, He Said, He Said, a look at the world from a seasoned Black man's perspective. Welcome to our Friday, November the 29th episode, ladies and gentlemen. Can you believe we are at the end of November, and it is 26 days before Christmas, okay? Yes, we are definitely here, and I'm in Washington, D.C., and it is feeling like Christmas. It is really chilly outside right now. Happy post-Thanksgiving to everyone. I hope you had a great time with your family and friends. And happy Black Friday, everybody. For those of you who believe in that and have gone out and have been doing a lot of shopping, I actually got a little shopping bug earlier today, and I went out to one of my favorite stores. I'm so DC, and I had to go buy black today. So I promised her, the owner, that I would wear her merchandise on the show tonight. So I'm so DC, here I am. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our very special episode tonight. On Sunday, December the 1st, we celebrate and recognize World AIDS Day, a global movement to unite people in the fight against HIV and AIDS. And since 1988, communities have stood together on World AIDS Day to show strength and solidarity against HIV stigma and to remember lives lost. According to the World Health Organization, this year's theme, Take the Rights Path, My Health, My Right. This is not just a time for reflection, but a call to action, a reminder while significant progress has been made in treatment, awareness, and prevention, the work is far from over. But we're recognizing this day, we are not only, combating the stigma surrounding HIV and AIDS, but also reaffirming our collective responsibility to ensure equitable access to healthcare, education, and support for all. Because together, we can do this. You've seen how far we've come. And tonight in our featured episode, We See You, we are joined by the Honorable Dr. Maurice Franklin, Public Policy and Public Administration Adjunct Professor at California State University. He's here to talk about his extensive work in the continued fight to eradicate HIV and AIDS. And he is my brother. And I'm going to tell you more about that when we get on with the show. I've been telling all of you all month that it is American Diabetes Awareness Month. And diabetes is a very serious medical condition that affects millions of Americans, particularly African Americans. And it's estimated that 1 in 10 Americans have diabetes, and many people don't even know it. The website, www.diabetes.org, please visit it. And find out more about diabetes, because I'm sure if you don't know someone knows someone who may have diabetes, and it is not a fun thing. And before I bring Bobby into the show, I want to talk to all of my dog lovers tonight, ladies and gentlemen, because something happened on yesterday that made me real happy. I am a pug lover. Okay, anybody who knows me know that I love my pugs. Now, these two are no longer with me, but they ran my life for many years. But on yesterday, Vito the pug, he won Best in Show at the 2024 National Dog Show on Thanksgiving. And a couple of weeks ago, Vito even won Best in Breed at the Westminster competition. And so he's a bad pugum mugger. Okay, Vito is bad. Now, this is one thing that I didn't agree with, and it's just taking me out. He won this award, and he and his own owner only received $2,000. Now, y'all know that's not right. But anyway, Vito is getting lots of recognition. So for all my dog lovers and pug lovers out there, this one's for you. All right. Like I said, we have a great show lined up tonight for World AIDS Day. And I can't do what I do without this guy. So if we can, let's get on with the chat. Bobby.
Okay, I just want you to push back just a little bit so they can see your sweatshirt, because it's I just want them to see that there, say where it says "I'm so DC" on that. So that is so cute.
You know, thank you, Bobby. I'm such a huge fan of this store. And ladies and gentlemen, look it up online. I'mSoDC.com. She didn't pay me to say this, but I'm telling you all, please check out that store if you come to DC. It's some really cute stuff, very creative, very fashion forward. But like I said, I told her I'm wearing her merchandise tonight.
I
So
love it. And of course, many of our viewers know that you and I are both native Washingtonians. So this is something that we really, really want to get behind, supporting a local Black-owned business that promotes our hometown. So it's a good thing.
amen, amen. Bobby, before we get on with the chat, some
Yes.
folks have come up in here. Your girlfriend, your BFF, Meecy's in here. How you doing, Meecy? Kathy Luster is here. I think a new visitor. Thank you for joining us. Charles Reese is here. One of my favorite
Hey,
persons
Charles. Good
in
to
the
see you,
world.
man.
And let me see. Glenn Baker's here. JJ Tate is here.
As always, Glenn.
Happy holidays to each of you. And that's right, Glenn. Congratulations, Vito. That's right. Keep Pugs alive. Okay.
Thanks, Jay. I know Vito only getting $2,000. Now wait, let me just ask very quickly: is that the standard prize, or did they try to shake Vito down? Like what?
Bobby,
is that the normal prize?
I never even thought about it until I heard it on the news today. I mean, not that I don't care how much they get, but I figure $2,000 was not what I was thinking.
Not to be best in show. I agree.
Not to be best in show. Now he does, he had a lot of engagements. He was on many television shows today, but I don't know if they're paying him for that. But $2,000 for him and the owner to win best in show?
Not in 24.
Come on now. Hey, Kendall, thank you for joining us tonight.
That's riding the bus to get where you got to go. 2,000. Okay. All right. We've got the chat. We've got some things to know. Obviously, we are all, as you said, in this season of Thanksgiving. And yesterday, indeed, was Thanksgiving. And I know that both of us were blessed abundantly to be in the fellowship of those that we love. And so I just wanted to just take a moment for us to just articulate one or two things that we're thankful for this year.
Wow. Well, I'm going to let you go first because I have a ticker tape of 10 and I got to go to 2. So I'm going to let you go first.
All right. Okay. So I guess one of the things that I would say is, we often talk about the importance of village, and that village being your family and what we refer to as your family, your friends who are a part of your family. And so one of the things that I am always immensely grateful of and thankful to God for is a village. I feel that I am so tremendously blessed. I try to be a good village member, but I also know that it's because I have such an extraordinary village. So I thank God for village and community. The other thing, as you get older, your health is something that you can never ever take for granted. And so while I am not of perfect health, as I don't think anybody is, and certainly somebody over 60 years old, you start to have all kinds of things happen. I'm very, very, very grateful for, generally speaking, good health.
Yeah.
And I've been working on a project that some of you know about, home renovation of my childhood home that has taken far longer than it should have taken. But I'm hoping that, within the next few months or so, I'll be able to say that I am in my childhood home, honoring my family. And so those are three things that I'm thankful for: my village, health, and hopefully soon to be back in my childhood home. How about you?
Okay. See, you had said 2, but now I got to go to 3 because I cut it off at ticker tape.
You said you had a list of 10.
But I cut it off. No. First and foremost, I am just so grateful to be in my right mind.
Amen.
Without this, the things that I like to do, that little Alvin likes to do, they cannot be done. And I'm just able to, at 65, still have the luxury of being able to do all the things that I really like doing, and doing it in good health, as you said, Bobby. So I'm very thankful for that. I am very thankful for my friends as well. They know who they are. They know who I am, which is the most important thing. and we treat each other with so much respect. And sometimes that respect calls for crucial conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really appreciate those friends who I can talk to and they can talk to me, and we get it. And last but not least, I am really, really thankful for having the opportunity to see you every week, Bobby, on this show, dealing with me and my creative flow and how I need to do what I need to do to make sure that this comes to fruition. And that's including you and Norman. You all don't see Norman. He's that person doing everything that you all don't see.
He's our Oz. He's behind the stage. He's Oz.
He is. So I'm very thankful for that. And
well,
I thank you for giving me that room to do that. So
thank you, Alvin. Thank you, Alvin. Well, many of the viewers know that you and I have certainly been friends and brothers for decades, many, 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 many years. And so it is an honor to be on this ride with you. And I thank you for entrusting me with being a part of the He Said family. So,
well, thank you. And so, viewers, so that you know, for our chat, Bobby and I thought that we would stay away from what's in the news and just get a little personal with you guys today. Yeah. And in honor of World AIDS Day, Bobby and I, we want to take a minute to also talk about what honoring World AIDS Day means to us, because we're in that bracket of life that we saw AIDS and HIV from the beginning to where it is now. And so as far as, I'll say this, Bobby, what it means to me, and we're going to take you on a pictorial journey of some of what we have experienced over the, 40 plus years that this epidemic has come into our lives. One of the things that what it means to me, if I never knew what the meaning of hope was, AIDS and HIV taught me about hope, because there are many days that I would say, why am I still here? And other people are not, because AIDS has ravished our community in a way where some of the most brilliant people in the world were just taken away. And so hope is the word that comes for me, because of all the advances of where we are now. People are living longer, are living with HIV and AIDS, but at the same time, you cannot forget where we come from. So absolutely. Hope is what it means to me.
Wow. You raised obviously some very hard truths. We have been around long enough. Both of us are over 60, and I know we don't look at folks. I know God is good, but we have been around long enough to really see the devastating impact of AIDS, and we have lost those people that we love, friends. The image that's up right now is the quilt, the AIDS quilt that traveled the country, telling stories of those loves that were lost. Such touching and moving stories, narratives, people's legacy.
I have 4 there.
You said 4?
I have 4 panels on this quilt.
Wow.
Yeah. I do, and that alone wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Because you don't just go there and lay a panel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So that.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No. And of course, some of the viewers may be aware, and certainly those who've known me a while know that while I had lost a number of friends and people that I knew of to the disease, it hit most closely when I lost my only sister, my youngest. The youngest of the 3 children, my sister, only girl of the 3, who in 1995, at the age of 30, contacted me to share that she was under the weather and had gotten some devastating news. And again, timing is so important when it comes to this disease, in that in 1995, as a Black female, she was simply not on the radar of the medical community in terms of any type of real studying or really attention to Black women, who were a rising demographic within the AIDS infected community. And so losing my sister at the age of 30 was devastating for me and for my family. And so it came as close as it could possibly come to my family and the loss of my sister. So it's always been something that's very personal to me. And as you said, as a Black gay man, feeling to some degree this survivor's remorse, like wondering how is it that I was unable to be impacted in the way that so many people were, and grateful at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I remember I knew you when your sister passed away, because that was also a time that I lost my partner of 17 years at the same time. And during that time, and I know we're going to move on, that was like a moment where the stigma was so high, and it was just where families who had family members that were dying of HIV or dying of AIDS. And if you were in a relationship, that was a moment where families would come in and just, feel like they had no regard for the fact that you might have been in a relationship with this person. And I saw a lot of that happening. Thank goodness it did not happen to me. But when I reflect on that, that's also another piece that's very hurtful, in going through. So, yeah. So thank you, Bobby, for going down memory lane. Thank you, viewers, for letting us go down memory lane with you and share some of our personal experiences about, this devastating disease. But people are living longer, and we're going to talk more with our special guest about that.
We are.
We're going to do that. I also, okay, I'm going to, take the chill off before we end our chat.
Okay.
Let's talk about this social media thing right now. Bobby and I decided that we wanted to ask our viewers 2 questions. And the first one is, imagine if social media closed every day at 6:00 p.m. like a shop. Would you be forced to meet up, speak to each other in real life, real time, to be present, with your families, with your friends, etc. Go outside, read a book, do music, just be creative. How would you manage, Bobby, if social media shut down? I'm talking about all social media shut down at 6 p.m. and you couldn't get on to do what you do.
Well, you guys know I like reaching out to my friends via Facebook. So I share a lot. I do. I go on it. I take walks all the time. I enjoy good food and stuff like that. So I utilize social media quite a bit. But I have to say, I don't think that it would take a while to get adjusted to it, but I don't think it would be a terribly bad thing, because I also enjoy reading. I also enjoy being in the company of friends. So, I mean, it would take an adjustment, but it wouldn't be the end of the world for me.
Well, I agree. It wouldn't be the end of the world for me. And I say that because I became Alvin and some of the businesses that I have before social media.
Yeah.
Now, social media has helped because it reaches out to everybody. But if it closes at 6, I'm going to be on it at 3:00. Okay. And it closes at 6.
You're like, I'm just going to adjust.
I'm just going to adjust. But no, I think it's something to think about, because a lot of countries are, they will be regulating social media for a lot of people, and it could come this way. So I thought that was a very real question to ask. What would you do if that happened?
So he said would have to come on at 5:00.
We would have to come on at 2, Norman. Okay, and that's all I'm saying. And if viewers couldn't watch it, you all can go to our YouTube page at He Said Live, and make sure that you look at it. Okay,
and watch it before 6:00.
And watch it before 6:00. But
so let me ask you that. So these same platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of those. Let's just go back in time, since we took a moment to go back in our. Let's think back to when we were in our 20s.
Okay.
How much? I know we were out there. I know, but how much do you think social media, if it existed back then, would have impacted our lives in our 20s? Do you think things would have gone very differently? Or, I mean, think about Alvin back when we were in our 20s and Alvin with social media back then. Should we be okay? Let's. Okay, he's taking a sip, folks.
I'm taking a sip and say that's why I'm so glad that some of these viewers have said some stuff. Let me go ahead. Kendall, you're welcome. Thank you. You're welcome, Kendall. How you doing, Monica? And Charles Reese. Before we answer the question, Charles said he has a new spoken word single, executive produced for and by the Black AIDS Institute. We Speak Your Name, written by Clarence R. Williams, spoken word. Charles Reese featuring Bradley J. You're getting a jot for him because you're coming on the show. All right, Charles. So you already put it out there. So
coming back.
You will be seeing him for a live performance from Charles Reese, ladies and gentlemen. And Glenn said, our generations have had human connections prior to social media. Other generations may have challenges. Hey.
I agree. Hey, we had to exist before it came. Exactly.
We know how to talk on the phone. So,
these youngins out here now, they want to text you everything. And I'm like, after the third or fourth text, shouldn't we be talking?
Yeah. Well, after the first one, hello.
Oh, you real old.
I don't have time. Let me have a conversation with you, and that really depends on what comes through on that phone. But what my 20s.
Yeah, with social media.
With social media. Well, no, I'm gonna say no. Thank God I didn't have it because I learned to be disciplined. I learned how to prioritize. I learned how to follow up. All the things that I need and that I really pride myself on in business, I did it before social media.
Yes.
And so I'm good. I'm good. I didn't need to go to the club. I just went.
But let me ask you this though. Given some of the things that we did, not all bad things. I'm just saying.
I was going to say we. Are you a singing group now or something? We. Go ahead, Bobby. Y'all, ladies and gentlemen, don't let him suck you. Okay, don't. Go ahead, Bobby.
All I'm saying is, I certainly can say for me, I'm not going to say for you, I am glad that social media was not around. Because there were just some things in retrospect, now that I'm 60 some odd years old, that I think back when I was 20, I'm like, thank God nobody could just whip out a cell phone and be like, look at Bobby up in the club doing that. So.
Yeah, social media has definitely, as far as relationships go, it wouldn't hurt to, if you're cheating on somebody, social media makes it easy for you to be exposed. So, you know what I'm saying? So you didn't have that back in the day. You could cheat. And before you got home, you didn't have to see it, or somebody didn't call somebody or put that picture up and say, you know what? See, that's
right.
I'm good.
It was their word against your word. Now they've got like, no, I know it was him. Here's the picture. I'm sending you the clip right now. Yes. It's very different.
Ladies and gentlemen, wait a minute. Michi had a comment before we move on. For my generation, it would be okay. However, for the generation who were born into social media, would readily struggle. I agree. I agree. Viewers, thank you so much for weighing in on that. We appreciate it. We are now ready. We're going to move on into our We See You tonight. We are so happy that our special guest is here. No, I know I'm happy because I call him a brother. And Bobby, if you're ready, I'm going to go ahead and introduce him.
Let's get him.
Are you ready?
Let's bring the doctor on.
Okay, all right, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, the Honorable Dr. Maurice O'Brian Franklin is a distinguished public policy and public administration adjunct professor at California State University. Currently, he holds pivotal positions, including memberships in Manhattan's Community Board 10, where he represents Central Harlem and provides leadership in the Landmark and Transportation Health and Human Services Committee. He is also the second vice president of the Harlem Hospital Community Advisory Board, a board member of the Prince Hall Medical Foundation, and chair of Health and Wellness for the founding chapter of 100 Black Men in Harlem. Recognized for his influential public opinion columns, Dr. Franklin received accolades from the Oklahoma Press Awards in 2023 for his article critiquing the policing of Tyree Nichols, underscoring his commitment to social justice and advocacy. Dr. Franklin As the second openly gay executive staffer at the SCLC, founded 3 nationally recognized nonprofit organizations: Los Angeles, California based, the Black AIDS Institute, the National Black Justice Coalition, and Second Sunday. Tonight, he is here with us, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome to the He Said platform, my friend, Dr. Maurice Franklin.
Thank you. I see you. I see both of you, brothers. Both of you.
We see you, brother.
We see you. Thank you, Maurice, for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go off script for 1 second because I got to let you all know there's something very special about this moment right here, because Maurice and I met Thanksgiving week 1992, Maurice?
91. It's 31 years ago.
91, wow. 31 years ago in South Carolina. Wow. I didn't know, but I was going to visit someone who was dying from AIDS, and it was 8 of us who came together, and Maurice was one of them. And that moment, we called each other brother 30 years ago. So this week, this moment right now is very special to me. Thank you for being here, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the invitation. And as you guys were talking about earlier, you were talking about the things that you're grateful for, and you talked about sort of your chosen family and chosen community. And I really was thinking about, 31 years ago, as I was driving from Atlanta, Georgia, where I worked with Dr. Joseph Lowry at the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, driving from Atlanta to Greenville because my friend was passing. And as soon as, I don't know how I got there, quite frankly, I was driving so fast that the moment, but I remember that by the time I got to Greenville, I was hearing Angela Bofill's song, and I knew that at that point it was it, because that was one of his favorite songs. And so when I got to the hospital, my friend Marv Starks had passed. But that's really how we connected, my fraternity brother and his partner, and sort of our extended friends and family, and Alvin, you were part of that connection, and those brothers at that time, particularly doing this work around HIV and AIDS. It was challenging work. And so, as a very young, mindful, intentional, a brother who was, had what I considered at the time, brothers we didn't get a chance to run back into a burning building. We were in the burning building. Yeah. And we made a choice. And we made the choice to stay in that building and that house that was on fire, trying to save our members of our community's life. As Dr. Lowry said, when America gets a cold, Black America gets pneumonia. Amen. And we were experiencing that all around the country, all around us. And so I was fortunate enough to have had, this experience in the United States Navy, and then taking that, to the National Education Association, where I worked along with Dionne Warwick and was with her and her team as the quilt came to Washington for the very first time. Wow. And so these experiences that I was having, because of sort of the adjacency of being with a social justice leader like Joseph Lowry, it sometimes placed me in places where I felt so isolated and so alone, trying to speak the names and speak on behalf of people in our community. And Alvin, I want to tell you that, when I met you and those 8 brothers during that time period, I felt like I had an extended community. And so that the fear that I was having, even if I'd walk into spaces and, I'd be all bucked up and ready for whatever was happening. Mm-hmm. When I go back and look at those pictures right now, Alvin, I'll say, I see a young boy, you look in his eyes, he's scared to death. Yeah. He's scared to death, but I'm ready for the fight. And so, but it was meeting you and other brothers like you that I call brothers for life, that really I felt insulated, but I felt emboldened, and even in those the days when I was fearful, I was, unafraid, as our Lord says, even the rocks cry out, so I just knew that at some point I had to be strong for all of those who could not be strong. So I'm really glad that I got a chance to meet you, and that we have. Now, I thought that I would be, by now I would have been walking in the King and I productions, doing runway. I didn't realize this would be how we get to be a part of your production.
He is really going back now because everybody knows.
Okay, look, he is too busy for that. Okay, so I'm just going to say that he is too busy. I would not stand in the way of your success at all by asking you to walk on the runway. And since I have you at this moment, for those of you who are joining this show, who know Maurice, I see you all on Tuesday, December the 3rd, Maurice. You are being honored by the New York City Health Department Bureau of Hepatitis, HIV, and Sexually Transmitted Infection for your contribution to eradicating the HIV epidemic in New York City. So I want to take this moment to just congratulate you right now and send you kisses. I didn't screen. Do we have that image of his of the actually what I've been seeing announcing that you're going to be awarded this opportunity. I think I'm sorry, it may be at the end of the show, but I'm going to put it up so everybody can see it. And I just want to ask you, Maurice, what being honored in this way means to you.
I call out the names of those in the community that were doing this work along with me who are not here now. And so for me, it is recognition of my work, but it's a collective work that I've been engaged in. So, I call the name of Darina Kearney, who lives in Philadelphia, because a lot of work happening there is a direct, descendancy of her work. And so I call all of my, Larry Mims, who's now in Amsterdam. I call all of those names, Ira and Rick, in DC. So for this award that I'm receiving, and I'm honored to receive it on behalf of, the work that I've been doing, I also know that there are many people in our community who, as I said, were in the fire, never left the building, didn't have the pleasure of walking back in with this polished job and all of these resources. We didn't know what we were doing the best we could at that particular time. So I accept the award, and I will accept it in the name of all of those individuals, Craig Harris, who's no longer here. For me, it's an honor. It's a collective honor. I'm glad that, and I hope that, for those that are doing, this work in these organizations now understand, not just the legacy that they're a part of, but the, the smoke and the mirror and the bells and the whistles, all the things that we had to do in order to just even raise the awareness, how many meetings we had to go to and shut the meeting down, you shut it down, or doing just things that I call performative, going to CDC meetings every year, to these big conferences and walking down front and center and having somebody kiss me on the lips. And I'm just a young boy at the time. I'm just trying to figure all these things out, public and private, but I would do it because I knew how important it was to my community. So sort of those lessons and those stories that are not told or untold about in terms of our struggle, our successes, and the commitment and passion that all of those individuals. One thing that I've really noticed, particularly as I begin to talk to more of what I consider elders in the community, it seems like everybody had some kind of background in theater or performing arts. Phil Wilson out of L.A. George Bellinger, who's was at Howard University, teaching dance in the dance program. I said, wow, we all have these similarities. So we, in some ways, had already chosen something that perhaps in our community people were looking at like, boy, is you gonna do something serious with your life? I like want to sing and dance all the time, but in some ways, so we were, so being an outsider or a brother outsider, as described by Barrett Rustin, we were prepared to, not be afraid, like Baldwin or Garvey or Malcolm X. We understood that there was a particular assignment that we had, and regardless of what anyone else was doing, we were going to, stand on the front line and pump our chest and fight on behalf of our community. So I call all of those names when I'm there.
Well, congratulations. And again, we're going to put the information up at the end of the show. And I wish I could be in New York City just to bring some flowers to you, my brother. So keep doing what you're doing. Thank you. I
have such great respect and deference for your humility in terms of calling out the names of those who have been a part of this journey with you. And I certainly agree with you in terms of that line of creative spirit and genius that existed for many of the folks who were on the front line. And in some ways, I have to think that part of it is just the fact that the creative communities were being hit and publicly in ways that sometimes the other communities were not necessarily. People were kind of like DL and kind of like, not acknowledging certain things, but the creative community, the dancers, the singers, the performers, and so forth, who were already used to being up and in it, were certainly impacted and so forth. So, so as you give deference to those people who have worked with you during this journey, I would love for you to share with our listeners and viewers how this all started for you. Like, what prompted the beginning? Because as you said, we were in the fire, but some people did decide to walk away from it. So what got you started?
Well, my journey's a little different. I remember the United States Navy. I was stationed in Portsmouth, at the Portsmouth Naval Hospital. And so at the very beginning of the epidemic, when sailors and Marines were beginning to test positive for the virus, they would ship them off to the sort of closest hospitals in the region. And so I happened to be at Portsmouth Naval Hospital. I was the director of education and training, providing education training to the nursing staff and the medical team. And so we needed to come up with the protocol and, sort of some protocols for training these primarily sailors, Marine and Navy guys who were showing up at the hospital. And so I was responsible for developing education, nutrition, not necessarily developing, but locating resources throughout our network. And so I put together these resource packets, and I'd go over to the ward, and I just kind of felt myself lingering. I'm looking at people who look just like me, young, vibrant. The only thing different was they had tested positive for, at the time, HTLV virus. And so here they were at the Naval Hospital, isolated for 2 weeks, and then shipped off someplace else, but closer to home. They weren't allowed to go back into their sort of the normal jobs that they had. And so I began to develop friendships, and I got invested. I was invested in trying to save these individuals' lives. And during that same time period, someone from my hometown of Pauls Valley, Oklahoma, which is where I'm from, Dr. Kalu Luster, he's sort of this unknown, but this gentleman who was really involved in what would be considered the Black gay and lesbian movement of the 70s and 80s, as PhD psychologist who was from Pauls Valley, Oklahoma, who's now living on the West Coast. And I just happened to call him once, and we were talking, his brother and I, he's my cousin, and we were talking, and he started asking me, what are you doing? What are the sailors doing? What's the U.S., what's the government doing? And I was just telling him what I was doing, and he was encouraging me to get involved and to do whatever I could to just raise the alarm about how this was impacting our community. And maybe a couple of months before he passed, he reached out to me. At that point, I was no longer active duty, but I was working for the American Red Cross, doing the same thing, provide education training. But he began to connect me with members out of DC, leaders out of Chicago, these Black gay leaders that he knew that I didn't know them at all. But when he passed, there was this magazine article in the Newsweek. It was this picture of everyone, I think in 85 or 86, that had died of HIV and AIDS. It was just the whole magazine. And so I was sitting there looking at this, just glued to this picture. And so I began to go back to the notes I had taken from him, and I started to call people in the DC area. And from that moment, that just kind of invested me, not just in what was happening with Marines and sailors, but what was happening with the Black gay community. And so from that moment, I felt like that was my calling to be the voice for Black gay men at that specific time. And of course, I was, I had left Virginia and was now in Atlanta, Georgia. I was sort of moving around quite a bit at that time, but I was fortunate to have worked for Dr. Joseph Lowery, SCLC,
Mhm.
And so each progression, of the work that I was doing, and I felt like it was a training ground around social justice. And
Mhm.
so but what it was for me just a passion. I wanted to save people who look like me. I wanted to create an organization, spaces. I wanted to do whatever I could possibly do to save my brother's lives.
Mhm.
Amen. Amen.
Yep.
Well, you gave me like the perfect segue for the next question that I had, because you have had some powerful people that you've worked with and that have influenced you, and motivated you and taught you. And one of those persons is the Dr. Joseph E. Lowery at SCLC, who has, he's won the presidential or received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Obama. Talk a little bit more about his influence and impact on your life and your career, Maurice.
So I'll tell you first quick Larry's story, then I'll go backwards. But at the Obama inauguration of 2008, Dr. Larry and I were talking, and he's giving he's going to give the prayer, and he says, "Well, the inauguration committee called me, and they want me to cut my speech down, Maurice, and Rick Warren is going to talk." And he said, "Well," and so he's going to give a prayer too. I don't know how long he goes. Dr. Larry said, "Well, if Rick goes 6 minutes, I'm going to go 8 minutes." Because it's supposed to be like around 3 or 4 minutes. And so, but if you watch, if you're at the inauguration and you hear Dr. Lowery, go into the prayer, and then you hear him go, "God of our weary years, God of our silent tears." That part of that's all Dr. Lowery. That's not written down. That's him going into call and response. So if you see the President Obama, you see his head tilt.
Get on with it.
No. That was a head tilt. Like I hear you, I feel you, I'm with you.
Okay.
That was a smile. Like get this. But Dr. Lowery and I have such a fantastic relationship with him. I not only worked at SCLC and got to work with SCLC women doing HIV, the HIV and AIDS, national AIDS the movement that they had working with faith communities throughout the South. But I also had the pleasure and honor of going to church at Cascade United Methodist. So Dr. Lowery was my spiritual leader.
Mhm.
He looks like my grandfather. And so I had a sort of a blood family, leader, a connection with him. He was more than just my boss. He was like a father figure to me. So I learned a lot from him. I got the opportunity to work with John Nettles and James Orange and other leaders that came through SCLC, including Rosa Parks and Dick Gregory. And so in the midst of all of that, I felt like they were pouring into me. Dr. Lowery was pouring into me, preparing me. They'd say, Barrett Wrestling worked here. He was openly gay. We were okay with that. I said, "Well, I thought y'all knew I was gay." Here you are telling me that it's okay. I was that, but
Good to know.
it was just that kind of, in the midst of all the work and the isolation, there were, a lot of black gay men who were okay for Maurice to come to a party and, you got a certain look, you're good, you can fit in. But when it came to, doing the work, social justice, HIV and AIDS, or black gay liberation, that's a whole different ball of wax. And so there's a lot of isolation that came with that. But that sense of being with Dr. Lowery and having that kind of access and that kind of support, I felt like there were a lot of opportunities that he gave me. We had during that time period the first Black Gay Summit at the King Center that Coretta and Dr. Lowery, were part of it happening, and so it was having that kind of access, and of course Dr. Lowery during the Million Man March was the only leader that said anything about the Black Gay, he was the only leader that even called that name, our names, and so there was that kind of intentionalness that I got from his leadership, that he was not afraid to speak truth.
Yeah,
he was a man of his convictions. He said what I've always felt like he said what was necessary, and for me that was a great training ground around ethics, morality, and being clear about your convictions. And during that time period, of the early 90s, this work required that. It required us to be clear about the needs of our community, fighting with, CDC or HHS or the local health departments, or working with a band of brothers across the country, brothers in Chicago or Seattle or LA. We were all kind of connected by telephone at that time, a fax machine. And so the work that we did, and Cleo was at the second Million Man March, not the first one. So whoever this is supposed to know, but
I love it. He's multitasking here.
You do what you got to do.
But it was that band of work that we had to do in terms of supporting each other. So if you knew something that I didn't know, it was around nutrition or around Eastern European or other medical methodologies, we were sharing that information in order to keep and support the brothers in our community living either holistically, if people weren't even on medication at that time. So exercise, mental health, nutrition, Asian, and West African medications. We were doing everything that we could throughout our network, and it was all telephone and faxes.
Well, we got the best of you, because I see Dr. Lowry has poured into you. Absolutely. Okay, he has poured into you, Bob. You're doing the work, but he definitely laid the foundation for you to do what you're doing, Maurice. Before we move on, I want to say hello to a couple of these people here. Gia, I hope it's either Gia or Gia. Thank you for joining the show tonight. Rudy Miles, Kathy Luster, Colin Clark. I love me some Colin Clark in Harlem. Thank you for joining the show. And Lowell, thank you. Lowell, thank you for Lowell. Thank you for your comment tonight. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, it is so good to see so many folks here tonight. And Maurice, as you were talking about, even mentioning that some people weren't on medicine, I'm thinking about the stigma that was often related to even going to the pharmacy to get certain medicines and disclosing your HIV status, that there were some people who simply could not do that or chose not to do that, and certainly turned to alternative medical approaches and so forth. So I was rolling down medicine, the memory lane as you were sharing.
Even more than that, in 1991, when my friend passed, and that his family didn't even claim his body.
Yeah,
they didn't claim his body. We had to, and there were many stories like that in our community. I know too many people that the churches wouldn't let them be buried. The families wouldn't pick their bodies up, or they were in isolation because their dear friends, their Judies, that we used to use the word Judy, meaning we could wear the same. We wore each other's sweaters. Now, I was never a Judy, but I wanted to be a Judy, but
you're my Judy. No, you're my Judy. Okay, no, yes, you are. Okay, I'm sorry, but keep going. Okay,
but people would abandon their friends. People that and there are people living today that I still. I'm so glad of the the transition and that they and their conversion. But I remember during that time period when their friends, they had abandoned their friends, and we were there to provide that support and that network, because isolation. Whether it's HIV and AIDS or diabetes or any other illness, mental health, the touch is so important to healing, and having someone you can talk to or smile with, or those kinds of things that provide just exhale kind of comfort. And so people were abandoning their friends and leaving them to die alone and isolated, and I remember those stories and try not to let that jade who I am today. But during that time period, we were in the gap. The work that we did fell into those gaps. Alvin, the work that I did with Alvin, with Richard and Marv, it was in the gap. We provided a gap and a brotherhood and a network, and something that even my friend Richard's family still looks at, this brotherhood that we have, and they're so happy to know that Richard Bolden, I call his name, my friend from Greenville, that his family still to this day, I'm still Uncle Mo. Yeah. To the grown kids, I'm Uncle Mo, because they remembered that we were there on that front row at the church.
Mm-hmm.
We were in the car on the way to the service. Even though his mom was alive, she saw us, and she recognized us as family and as people that he were central to his life. And so she didn't abandon her son, and she wouldn't let us be seen any less than. These are part of our family. So those are the stories that I want to leave, that I'd like to, as we talk to younger generations, maybe they know about PrEP and PEP and all these new interventions and strategies that make people's lives much better, far better than what we had to deal with 31 years ago. But to let them know that there was a network of people out there that at all costs we would do anything that we possibly could to if it meant somebody living just another day, we would do that.
Speaking of the network, you have done some extraordinary work with names that we are familiar with. Phil Wilson, of course, of the Black Aid Institute, and of course, journalist and political commentator, former member of the Clinton administration, Keith Boykin as well. Tell us a little bit about some of the work that you've done with Phil and Keith.
So Phil, Keith, and I think that, over the last 30 years, if there's a movement or a network that's happened in the Black Aid community, I think you find Keith and I and Phil together. So Phil and I met at the first International AIDS Conference in Montreal, Canada. And I just happened to be probably the only person walking around with not gay on my title, but Phil had it on. So I graduated with Phil and George Bellinger, and we became friends in Montreal that summer in Montreal. And so Phil is like a big brother to me. And so as a board member of the Black Gay and Lesbian Leadership Conference, which I was a member of the board, and my work with SCLC, that what I was learning when I was with Dr. Lowry was how to advance a leader and how to work with a leader, how to put the meat on the bones. That's what I learned from Dr. Lowry, how to make a room that looked like it was going to be smoke and mirror, not look like smoke and mirror. And so the work what I learned from Joe Lowry, I translated in my work with my big brother, Phil Wilson. He is my mentor, my leader. And so I translated that into working the work that Phil and I've done over the last almost 40 years, it seems like now. And of course, Keith and I have been friends and peers, and from the Million Man March of '95, Keith and I and Phil and a few others were a part of the very planning of that, the '95, that Black Gay participation. And of course, if anybody was there the day of, and remember, that rally that we had and that march to the mall that we had on that day. And everybody see everybody else dressed in suit and tie, but they'll see me wearing combat boots.
And your uniform.
I was wearing combat boots and a hoodie because even though we had worked the night before doing all the press and preparing for that march, Gary Daffin out of Boston and Steve Walker out of Houston, there were lots of us that were working on that. But I didn't know what was going to happen that day. So as we marched to the wall hollering black, gay, 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 gay. And Keith and I said, well, if it's going to be a fight, then I'm going to fight. I'm definitely not going out without a fight. But what
and you're going to be dressed for it
and prepared. But what happened on that day was so powerful as we begin to, and of course, Professor Dirk Bell from Harvard and Columbia was there with us on that day. But as we begin to march down I think 9th Street to the mall, you could hear sisters going, represent, represent, represent. And the moment we got to the mall, you saw brothers who were just going to make a hole. The mall just opened up. We got there, to me, I've had to think about the three things that impacted my life. And, sort of, this is that watershed moment for me. That was one of them. Just seeing that love, all Black men, of all stripes, of all persuasions, the love that we had from that day. So Keith and I, of course, have been involved in that. We're both co-founders of the National Black Justice Coalition. And most of the work that Keith and I, national work that you see that's happened over the last 30 years, Keith and I think have had significant impact on that. The Brown Conference that happened in 2001 that both Phil and Keith were a part of. So I think sort of we see each other.
Yeah.
We're able to support each other. Certainly able to critique and be critical, but at the same way lifting each other up. So it's never about tearing my brother down. It's about how can we have honest conversations and critique and lift each other up. And so
it's a blessing.
That's the part. That's the part that I like most, Maurice. Look, I know we're getting short on time, but I want to make sure that if before we let you go and we ask you to close us out, Maurice, I want to ask you about your organization, Second Sunday, and if you could just briefly tell us more about the organization and how people can be connected to it.
So Second Sunday is an organization I founded in Atlanta, Georgia in 1991. And so it's not as active as it is right now. So I list that in sort of my historical organization. It's much like, Rick and Ira and Black Gay Talk in the 90s. So Second Sunday is sort of an iteration of that. And GMAD, it's an organization that I created in 1991 to save the lives of Black gay men in the Atlanta area. So it existed, fully existed for the 25 years, but it's not really as active now. But if you want to communicate with me, you can communicate with me through Maurice Franklin, mfranklinmanagement.com or Dr. Mo Frank 357. Always some Masonic something up in there, but
we have some emails that we have information on how we can contact you. We're going to put those up on the screen. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Well, I'm glad. I just wanted to make sure that I asked you about Second Sunday before the last question. Before we let you go.
Yes, our final question for you is obviously the perception of AIDS and its impact on society, how people live or not live with it has evolved over time. Is there a closing message that you would like to share with our viewers and society in general in terms of AIDS 2024?
That there are still far too many people, Black gay men, getting infected with HIV and AIDS. And we can see that those numbers still are really still exacerbated among the Black gay community. Sure, we have new intervention strategies that are making individuals' lives, and the longevity of lives, people are able to live with HIV and AIDS. So we now know that it's treatable, and they're working towards a cure. And so there are certain medications that will extend your life and keep you your virus or suppressed. And so we're certainly, much further along than we were. But we're still seeing a rise in infections and syphilis and gonorrhea. And certainly, those are all sort of co-indicators of HIV infection and risk. So we still have lots of work to do among young populations, even older Black gay men as well. So let me not leave out older Black gay men, but just say that there's still...
Please don't.
We're still looking at numbers that are disproportionate to our population.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Maurice, like I said, I told you backstage, this hour goes by so fast when you're having fun, and we are reaching the end of the show. So I'm going to let's keep Maurice on camera, while we're closing out. Ladies and gentlemen, next week is December the 6th, and we will have a very special show for you next week. Our words of the week. Thank you to Bobby and James Baldwin. We can disagree and still love each other unless your disagreement is rooted in my oppression and denial of my humanity and right to exist. This is something that we all need to make sure that we read a couple of times a day. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. I also want to put up the information about Maurice, the event that you're being honored in this week in New York City, ladies and gentlemen. We have a way to get in touch with Maurice. He has it on his pages, and we will put it on our He Said live page also. But congratulations to you again, my brother, my friend.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
I love you.
Thank you. I love you too, man. And to all the viewers for showing up tonight, supporting me, Bobby, and Maurice. I love you guys. Please follow us on social media. We have our YouTube, He Said live. Please go there and subscribe. And we look forward to seeing you next week on a new episode of He Said.
He Said.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Have a good weekend, everybody. Be safe out there.
Everybody.
And thank you for joining the show tonight.
Thanks for watching, V. Good to
Thank
see
you.
you.